right, talk about a window into Hawaii's past. There are apparently boxes of letters from people who had ventured here in the 1800s that had been sitting unopened in a National Archive until this woman found them. Kirstin Downey from Civil Beat actually read these herself. Good morning to you.
Thank you, thank you.
This is so interesting to me. I want you to start off with how you came to this story.
All right. Well, about 6 years ago, I was doing some historical research, and I went to the Library of Congress and the National Archives, and I said, what do you have here that's really old from the Kingdom of Hawaii? And they brought out, among many other things, a set of boxes called Estates of Deceased Americans. Now, back in that era, in the 1800s, Hawaii, of course, was a separate independent kingdom. And so any records that came to and from Hawaii went through the State Department as foreign, as having come from a foreign country. If you were an American and if you died in the Hawaiian Islands in those years, your final papers were all handled by an official called a U.S. consul. The consul got control of your papers and could make sure they paid off your creditors, made sure that the bills were paid for your last care, and then those materials were supposed to be bundled back up and sent to your family and heirs back on the mainland, or as it was in a separate country than the United States. The fact is, hundreds and hundreds of those packets never made it back to the families. They ended up held in an archive that's now in College Park, Maryland. And when they brought the records out, I was astounded to realize that many of them had never been opened. When the boxes came out, they were wrapped in butcher paper and tied in old-fashioned twine. And so as I brought them out and as I laid them on the table and started to look at them, I had to carefully open each thing. They were quite fragile. Some of them had precious mementos of people's lives, lockets, photographs, letters, last letters from their family, and things sort of fell out on the table in front of me. And I found myself holding possessions of people who had been dead for 150 years or more, and I was the first human being to touch their items again. And this is the basis of the series that we've written.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because you're speaking as a journalist and very matter-of-factly. But I got to ask you, and this is not in the article, by the way, is your personal reaction, because I can imagine if I had found this treasure trove from the past that no one had opened for more than 100 years, I would be kind of freaking out.
It is. It felt kind of like chicken skin. Yeah. You know, I felt like, ooh, and I felt like a sense of responsibility to these people, that how tragic they died here alone. Thousands of Americans came here, particularly during the whaling era. There were years that we had up to 15,000 sailors here. They'd been in the Arctic, a lot of them. They'd been out at sea. They'd gotten sick and they died. A lot of them barely made it to Hawaii and died here. So there were many hundreds of Americans who died here. They died here alone with no one to look out for their possessions. And so in a sense, I felt like a sense of responsibility that I was the person who finally saw what was left of their lives.
A lot of these stories are very sad. It comes from people who are adults, even children are involved in this. The stories are fascinating. We don't have time to get to all of them, but I urge you to read the story. This is the first of a series on civilbeat.org. It is really incredible stuff. You can also text 66866 to get the newsletter. Kirstin, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
All right, I hope we'll have to talk more about this.
Great, thank you.
We'll be right back.